Shrouding the Heavens Episode 127. He Huang's formations were truly outrageous. Deviations of millions of li were commonplace. This time, Tu Fei was even teleported to Beiyuan, only reappearing in the grand finale, picking up from the previous events. After He Huang explained the arcane script of the three great ancient killer divine dynasties to everyone, Yi Fan and the others finally understood. The skeletal remains in the ancient cave belonged to a peerless killer from the heavenly court, from over 100,000 years ago. He had been besieged by numerous sacred lands back then, which was why he fled into the Undying Mountain. It was there that he left behind the sacred hide of an ancient sage, as well as that golden token. Afterward, Yifan picked up the sage's hide and began to study it once more. What was recorded on it was precisely the profound killing arts of the first ancient killer divine dynasty, the Heavenly Court. Yifan felt that, given his current situation, he should master several more sacred arts. After all, the exquisite young Ping King and numerous holy sons were eyeing him covetously, all of whom possessed world-shaking inheritances. The Heavenly Court's killing arts might just be an excellent choice. Even if he didn't use them to assassinate others, they could still be used for self-preservation. Immediately after, Peng Bo and the others also joined in, meticulously studying the ancient sage scroll. Ultimately, they learned that this was merely the first volume of the Heavenly Court's inheritance. There was actually a second volume, which contained the true core. Because the end of the ancient sage scroll mentioned the concealment secret among the 9 secrets, which was found in the second volume of the inheritance, Yi Fan and the others finally understood. No wonder the Heavenly Court in ancient times could wield such immense power. It turned out they possessed one of the 9 secrets. They even had reason to suspect that one of the 9 secrets found on Sacred Cliff was the very one mentioned in the ancient scroll. But just then, little Nanan's joyful laughter suddenly drifted from afar. It turned out they had been so engrossed in the ancient sage scroll that they hadn't noticed little Nan and playing with several small creatures. Before an ancient cave in the distance, they saw a golden pony, a golden swallow, and a golden calf. These creatures had surrounded little Nanan and were incredibly docile, allowing her to pet them. Moreover, they all shared a common characteristic. They were not made of flesh and blood, but of bodies of pure gold. Upon seeing this, Yi Fan and the others were immediately stirred. This also meant that the ancient cave was a divine mine, and within it, treasures for forging artifacts had already gained sentience. Soon, the group excitedly rushed towards the ancient cave, wanting to explore its depths. But suddenly, a terrifying might overflowed from the ancient cave. They could even see a pair of emerald green eyes light up, incredibly dazzling, so much so that people couldn't look directly at them. Precisely because of this, after Yi Fan and the others were illuminated by the light from those emerald green eyes, they were instantly restrained on the spot, unable to move an inch. It wasn't until little Anin noticed the anomaly and ran over that they finally recovered. Afterward, Yi Fan and the others quickly left the ancient cave, taking little Anin with them. They sensed that there was immortal gold within the ancient cave that had already gained sentience and would likely become a sacred spirit in the future. Fortunately, the creature within the ancient cave didn't pursue them. It wasn't until they had run a great distance that Yi Fan and the others finally let out a long breath. This time, they were fortunate to have little Nanan with them, otherwise, they would all have died inside. Those skeletal remains were a clear warning. Immediately after, Yi Fan asked little Nan and how those creatures came to play with her. Little Nanan replied, "I don't know. They just ran up to me on their own." He Huang, on the other hand, speculated that the creature in the ancient cave might be the legendary immortal tier green gold that had gained sentience. The group was instantly shocked upon hearing this, because whether it was Phoenix blood red gold, dragon pattern black gold, or immortal tier green gold, they were all sacred objects that were incredibly rare and sought after. Even ancient great emperors might not be able to collect them. It was a pity that the immortal tier green gold had already gained sentience. Even a peerless expert would find it difficult to suppress it, let alone them. However, the group was content. After all, if the Heavenly Court's sacred killing Dao arts were to spread, it would undoubtedly cause a huge sensation. In the time that followed, the group didn't linger much longer, continuing their advance towards the central region of the Undying Mountain. It wasn't until they saw several majestic mountains that they finally stopped to observe carefully. On those mountains, there were stretches of buildings resembling dilapidated Taoist temples or ancient divine shrines, vastly different from the architectural styles of the current era. The group even wanted to climb the mountains to investigate, but little Nan vehemently objected. She told everyone that the area was covered in black patterns, with not a single golden thread. Upon hearing this, the group instantly shivered, because this meant it was a place of certain death. They absolutely could not approach it. However, just as Yifan and the others were about to leave, they discovered a medicinal field on those mountains, where many spirit medicines were planted. They even judged from the concentration of the medicinal fragrance that these were at least spirit medicines over 10,000 years old. This made Yifan and the others both excited and apprehensive. After all, these were 10,000-year-old spirit medicines. In the outside world, even finding 1,000-year-old spirit medicine was incredibly difficult. But thinking of those black patterns, the group found it hard to take a step forward. Then, Yifan cautiously asked Little Nan if there were any golden patterns around the medicinal field. Little Nan obediently replied that there were only 2, but they didn't lead into the medicinal field and were still some distance away. Ultimately, Yifan decided to go and see for himself. He believed that as long as they didn't approach the buildings, there shouldn't be any major problems. A moment later, the group finally arrived at the foot of the mountain. Indeed, they saw over a dozen peerless spirit medicines, but also discovered over a dozen skeletal remains lying in the medicinal field. They could confirm that these individuals had all been peerless experts in life, some even comparable to peerless divine kings. Unfortunately, they had all died here before they even had a chance to pluck a single spirit medicine. This made Yifan and the others extremely wary, completely dispelling any thoughts of plucking the spirit medicines. Soon, the group quickly departed. However, during this process, they unexpectedly discovered 4 10,000-year-old spirit medicines growing amidst the weeds along the way. Without hesitation, he then harvested all of them. This greatly excited Yifan and the others. No one had expected that they hadn't managed to harvest any spiritual medicine from the herb garden, yet they stumbled upon an unexpected bounty on their way back. Yifan guessed that these 4 spiritual medicines were likely seeds that had drifted out of the herb garden, taken root nearby, and, after being tempered by tens of thousands of years, had finally grown to their current state. Thinking of this, Yifan and the others initially wanted to try their luck and explore the area more thoroughly once again. But just then, a tremendous roar suddenly erupted from the ancient structures on the mountain, startling the group so much that they fled without a backward glance, not daring to linger for even a moment. That loud bang was like the heartbeat of a powerful creature, its sound waves seemingly capable of shattering everyone's flesh and blood. The only fortunate thing was that, under Little Nan's guidance, Yifan and the others successfully escaped that area. They even firmly believed that without Little Nan leading the way on this journey, they would have undoubtedly perished, with no hope of survival. After traveling for more than 10 li, Yifan and the others once again saw the large, disc-shaped object, the divine object from beyond the heavens that several Saint Lords had previously vied for. However, that large disc had crashed into a cliff, almost completely buried by several massive boulders. Little Nan also warned Yifan not to go near it, as there wasn't a single golden pattern there. Yifan and Pang Bo felt a sense of helplessness. The hope of returning home lay right before them, yet they couldn't approach it. Not long after, Yifan and the others finally arrived at the core region of Undying Mountain, where they saw a chessboard bathed in golden light, intricately interwoven with various golden patterns. Upon seeing this, Yifan and the others were instantly overjoyed, and Blacka even leaped up in excitement, for this was precisely the gate of life left behind by the Void Great Emperor. This meant that they could finally escape this perilous land of Undying Mountain and teleport out from here. Blacka then began to study the array patterns on the chessboard. But suddenly, on a distant mountain, a headless knight appeared. Clad in black iron armor and wielding a black battle spear, he exuded a soul-stirring aura. Fortunately, the headless knight did not immediately detect Yi Fan and the others. Yet, even so, the powerful aura he emanated was clearly perceptible to Yi Fan and the others, sending a shiver down their spines. One could only imagine the true might of the headless knight. At the same time, Blackie, too, had finally deciphered the secrets of the chessboard. Yi Fan couldn't help but repeatedly confirm, asking Blackie if he had truly understood it thoroughly. For this damned dog was utterly unreliable. Every time it traversed the void, it would deviate by millions of li. He feared it would cause a major mishap at a critical moment. Blackie confidently declared, "Who do you think this emperor is? You can rest assured. However, to be on the safe side, let's try one by one. Who wants to go first?" As a result, upon hearing him say this, the others lost even more faith in him, all displaying expressions of deep skepticism. Seeing their reactions, Blackie indignantly retorted, "You guys truly have so little faith in this emperor?" Witnessing this, Pangbo decided to be the first to go. Yi Fan wanted to dissuade Pangbo, suggesting they teleport together, but Pangbo smiled and explained, "Don't worry, we are all individuals blessed with great fortune and destiny. Nothing will happen." Blackie also proudly declared, "Rest assured, there's absolutely no problem. I'll send him to Skygaze City, where we left not long ago." Since things had come to this, Yi Fan had nothing more to say. After all, seeing Blackie's confident demeanor, as if everything was under control, he could only reluctantly trust him. But just after Pangbo was teleported away, Blackie clearly seemed distracted, staring blankly at the patterns on the chessboard, as if he had already sensed his mistake. Even Yi Fan immediately felt a sense of foreboding and hastily asked Blackie where he had actually teleported Pangbo. Blackie nervously explained, "Don't worry, it's very close, just to the west of the eastern wasteland. To be precise, it's in the Central Plains." Upon hearing this, Yi Fan instantly flew into a towering rage, wishing he could chop this big black dog into 1,000 pieces. Pangbo had been teleported to the Central Plains. If he relied on flying by himself, it would take him at least 5 or 6 years to fly back, perhaps even more than 10 years. He had never encountered such an outrageous big black dog. Earlier, it had sworn it would teleport Pangbo to Skygaze City in the central region of the eastern wasteland, yet it had deviated all the way to the Central Plains. However, Blackie not only showed no remorse for his actions, but instead argued self-righteously, saying, "The Central Plains has always been a land of outstanding talents and ancient inheritances. Ever since Pangbo obtained the Demon Emperor's ancient scripture, what he has lacked most is tempering. It might not be a bad thing for him to go to the Central Plains." As a result, these words infuriated Yi Fan so much that he immediately gave Blackie a thorough beating. The only thing that brought Yi Fan a sliver of comfort was that before Pangbo departed, he had taken half of the Enlightenment tea leaves and the God-beating whip. Alone in the Central Plains, he at least had some safeguards. Blackie naturally realized this problem. After receiving a beating, he hurriedly urged Yi Fan to quickly divide the Enlightenment tea leaves. Afterward, Blackie asked the others again, "Who wants to go first this time?" Yi Fan and the others initially wanted nothing to do with this unreliable big black dog, but pressured by the dangers of Undying Mountain, Tu-Fei had no choice but to bravely step forward. As a result, this time was even more outrageous. Blackie directly teleported Tu-Fei to the Northern Plains. One must understand that the Northern Plains, Eastern Wasteland, Central Plains, Southern Ridge, and Western Desert were considered the 5 great perilous lands of this world. Especially the Northern Plains, with its millions of li of land, was a desolate expanse of either vast grasslands or immense Gobi Desert, where one could walk for a lifetime and not necessarily encounter a single soul. When Yi Fan and Li Heishui learned that Tu-Fei had been teleported to the Northern Plains, they once again gave Blackie a severe beating. But just then, the distant headless knight seemed to have sensed the situation here. He unleashed monstrous fluctuations and charged towards the group. Seeing this, Blackie hastily manipulated the array patterns on the chessboard. Fortunately, at the very last moment, Yi Fan and the others successfully traversed the void and departed, leaving the headless knight to strike at empty air. When Yi Fan and the others reappeared, they found themselves in a boundless golden desert. As far as the eye could see, it was desolate and uninhabited, with only scorching hot sand. Yi Fan and Li Heishui were utterly dumbfounded, thinking Blacka had teleported them to the western desert. Both of them let out strange cries and immediately pounced on Blackie, starting another brawl. Even Blacka himself was somewhat bewildered, yet he stubbornly insisted, "Actually, the western desert isn't so bad. The Great Thunderclap Temple on Mount Shuming is a holy land, where countless cultivators make pilgrimages every year. Perhaps we can also pay it a visit." Upon hearing this, Yi Fan and Li Heishui, who already wanted to kill him, became even more enraged. They wrestled with Blackie in the desert for a long time before their tempers finally cooled. Afterward, Yi Fan and the others began to fly towards the distant reaches of the desert. However, to their surprise, they hadn't flown even a few hundred li before they saw verdant green peaks. This was completely different from what they had imagined. It wasn't until they inquired with someone that they learned they had not, in fact, left the central region of the eastern wasteland. This was not the western desert, but the Foam Clan's martial training grounds. Moreover, they unexpectedly learned that the Foam Clan Saint Lord's 1,500th birthday celebration was approaching, and many individuals from various holy lands would come to offer their congratulations. Indeed, after Yi Fan and the others left the Foam Clan's martial training grounds, they soon encountered an acquaintance, none other than the great Xia Imperial Prince. Furthermore, the prince politely invited him to attend the Foam Clan Saint Lord's birthday celebration. Yi Fan naturally had no reason to refuse. After all, the Foam Clan Saint Lord had once brought 3 million gold yuan to help him break the Saint Fizzy curse. For this kindness alone, he ought to go and offer his congratulations. Yi Fan attended the Foam Clan Holy Lord's longevity celebration, where he was repeatedly provoked by the golden-winged Little Ping King. Reaching the limit of his patience, he retaliated in the most domineering manner. Picking up from the last episode, after receiving an invitation from the great Xia Prince, Yi Fan and his group soon arrived at the Foam Clan's location. Not far off, they beheld 800 islands suspended in the sky, resembling a peerless divine land, transcendent and ethereal. Numerous palaces were situated upon these islands, with immortal clouds flowing around them, filling one's heart with tranquility. Li Heishui exclaimed in admiration, "The Foam Clan's profound heritage is truly astonishing. The legendary 800 divine islands are indeed real." Upon their arrival at the Foam Clan's 800 divine islands, Yi Fan and his companions observed many cultivators from various holy lands who had come to offer their longevity wishes. Numerous Foam Clan members greeted everyone with smiles, constantly cupping their fists to express their gratitude. However, when it was Yi Fan's group's turn, a Foam Clan expert blocked them, declaring, "The rules here state no pets are allowed inside." Anyone with discerning eyes could tell that this pet referred to He Huang. As expected, upon hearing this, He Huang furiously roared, "Who's a pet? All the human pets this king speaks of have already gone in. Why am I not allowed to enter?" Immediately after, He Huang pointed at some sect disciples not far away. These individuals had indeed been captured by He Huang before. At this moment, upon seeing the large black dog, they wished they could flay him alive. However, recalling those humiliating past events, the sect disciples reacted as if they had seen a ghost and immediately fled into the 800 divine islands. Soon after, a Foam Clan elder approached. Recognizing Yi Fan and his group, he quickly ordered the Foam Clan experts to let them pass. Yi Fan politely bowed to the old man in response, as they had met before in Beiyu Divine City. A moment later, Yi Fan and his group were led to a palace on one of the islands. However, as soon as they stepped inside, many people cast peculiar looks their way. This was because they had previously heard that Yi Fan only had half a year left to live. Yet now, the half-year deadline had passed, and he was still alive and well, leaving them utterly astonished. Seeing this, Yifan immediately coughed up a trace of blood, hoping to conceal his current condition. Many who witnessed this secretly scoffed, feeling that Yifan was truly a scoundrel. He would often cough up blood when in trouble, yet he had fought a great battle against Hua Yunfei, the inheritor of the ruthless emperor's legacy, and later even slew the saintess of the Yinyang sect. Thus, seeing Yifan cough blood again, many felt quite exasperated, believing he was trying to mislead them. Just at this moment, the Yaoguang saint son stepped forward and greeted Yifan, asking about his health. Yifan smiled and replied, "I can probably live for another half a month." Unexpectedly, before the Yaoguang saint son could even respond, the extremely arrogant golden-winged little Ping King stepped forward and challenged Yifan. "Since you, this short-lived wretch, only have a few days left to live, why not quickly fight me? Let me send you on your way." Facing the golden-winged little Ping King's repeated provocations, Yifan could no longer tolerate it. He responded forcefully, "Am I supposed to be afraid of you? If you want to fight, then fight. I don't mind wiping you out." As soon as these words came out, the disciples from the many holy lands present all changed their expressions. These two were indeed peak experts among the younger generation. If they truly fought, it would definitely be a battle between dragons and tigers. Just at this moment, Feng Ming heard the commotion and stepped forward, advising the golden-winged little Ping King, "Brother Peng, do you wish to fight this person? Today is not a suitable day for fighting. Why not postpone the battle?" Hearing this, the golden-winged little Ping King felt a bit helpless. After all, these few days were the Feng clan Holy Lord's longevity celebration, and he certainly wouldn't dare casually ruin the banquet of a great power, lest he be swept out the door. Then, the golden-winged little Ping King coldly said to Yifan, "I'll let you live a few more days." Yifan felt utterly disdainful of this. He aggressively stood up, pointing his finger at the golden-winged little Ping King's nose, and roared, "Birdman! If you dare speak to me like that again, believe it or not, I'll kill you right now. I don't care where this is." Seeing this, the golden-winged little Ping King's aura immediately flared. He had never been pointed at like this before, yet now Yifan was publicly pointing at his nose and provoking him. With his temper, he naturally could not tolerate it. Afterward, the golden-winged little Ping King clawed at Yifan's finger, wanting to break it off. But Yifan's finger was like a sword ray. Upon contact with it, the golden-winged little Ping King's large hand was directly cut open, and blood flowed from his palm. This result made the golden-winged little Ping King incredibly furious. He hadn't expected Yifan's physical body to be so powerful. Not only did he fail to break the other party's finger, but he himself suffered a great loss. But soon, from the golden-winged little Ping King's large hand, the flowing golden blood transformed into a blazing inferno, causing the originally injured area to quickly recover, leaving no damaged spot. This scene stunned everyone. They realized that the golden-winged little Ping King had perhaps received the baptism of the heavenly Peng true blood. They had long heard that the old Peng King had once obtained heavenly Peng true blood in a certain ruin, a sacred object left behind by the ancestor of the heavenly Peng clan, which could allow his descendants to transform into a heavenly Peng sacred body. Now, it seemed to be true. However, Yifan remained fearless. He pressed forward, and again, pointing at the golden-winged little Ping King's nose, he roared, "Do you think that just because you've received the heavenly Peng true blood baptism, you're invincible under heaven? Unless you can unearth an even older ancestor, like the Kunping true blood, otherwise, you can come and try me." Hearing this, the golden-winged little Ping King was instantly enraged beyond measure. His large hand slammed forward again, emitting myriad rays of light, intent on smashing Yifan into a meat paste. Yifan, on the other hand, also extended his large hand to meet the attack. As the two collided, it was like the clanging of iron, and the entire island shook. However, Yifan's physical body was, after all, slightly superior. The golden-winged little Ping King's palm was struck by him, causing the web between his thumb and forefinger to split open, and he continuously retreated backward. The onlookers were all greatly astonished. No one had expected that the golden-winged little Pink King, who had obtained the heavenly Peng true blood, would actually have no way against the sacred body. This made them feel a deep sense of despair. After stabilizing his figure, the golden-winged little Pink King coldly said, "Very good. Once this matter is over, I will definitely slay you with my supreme divine power." In response, Yi Fan, without a word, swung his palm and slapped it straight onto the golden-winged little Pink King's face. This was naturally Yi Fan's intentional act, as the Birdman was too arrogant and had repeatedly provoked him. To deal with such an unruly person, one could only be even wilder than him. After being slapped, the golden-winged little Pink King was so furious his lungs were about to burst. This was an experience he had never had before, and to be slapped in the face like this in front of everyone made it unbearable for him. Afterward, the golden-winged little Pink King's entire body erupted with brilliant light, as if a demon god had awakened. The golden-winged little Pink King was about to engage Yi Fan in a great battle. Yi Fan, naturally fearless, stepped forward, ready to thoroughly teach that Birdman a lesson. But soon, Feng Huang stepped forward, interrupting the two. She sternly rebuked Yi Fan. "My grandfather's 1,500th grand birthday celebration is approaching, yet you're causing trouble again. What exactly are your intentions?" Yi Fan coldly retorted, "Didn't you see that he was the one who repeatedly provoked me first?" Feng Huang continued, "All I see is you being unforgiving even when you're in the right." Yi Fan sneered, "What a joke. You yourself said I was in the right, yet you don't question that Birdman, but instead turn around and interrogate me." Immediately after, Yi Fan brushed past Feng Huang, choosing to ignore her. Seeing this, Feng Huang found it difficult to flare up again, and instead turned and left. As for the golden-winged little Pink King, although his killing intent was surging, he didn't dare to cause trouble again. He walked towards the other end of the Divine Island, choosing to distance himself from Yi Fan, because he was afraid of losing control of his emotions and thus engaging Yi Fan in a great battle. Afterward, Yi Fan, Yao Wekong, the Xia Imperial Prince, and others began conversing. However, during this process, a man named Zhao Fei walked over, wishing to make Yi Fan's acquaintance. Yao Yuekong secretly transmitted a message, reminding Yi Fan, "This fellow is not someone to be trifled with. He's from the Ziwei sect. Although it's not a holy land, its heritage is extremely mysterious. The people within the sect are incredibly powerful and unfathomable." Upon hearing this, Yi Fan couldn't help but size up Zhao Fei and exchanged a few words with him. Zhao Fei then revealed his intentions. He wanted to purchase the dragon-marked black gold sword and the Qilin divine medicine seed from Yi Fan for a hefty sum. It was clear that rumors were circulating that Yi Fan didn't have long to live. Zhao Fei must have seized upon this point, wanting to acquire Yi Fan's treasures in advance to avoid missing out. Yi Fan naturally understood this well. So he replied, "It's not that I don't want to sell them, but in a few days, I might have to self-sever my cultivation and become an ordinary mortal. I intend to use the Qilin divine medicine to extend my life. As for the dragon-marked black gold sword, I plan to exchange it for peerless spirit medicine, just to allow myself to cling to life." Upon hearing this, Zhao Fei couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart. Even the disciples from other sects all looked over in this direction. If the news of Yi Fan self-severing his cultivation just to stay alive were to spread, it would surely cause a huge uproar. After being politely refused by Yi Fan, Zhao Fei turned to leave. But the moment he left, his heart seemed to be plotting some unspeakable secrets. Immediately after, Xiao Nan and walked up to Yi Fan and said, "Big brother, that person just now isn't a good person. Nan An heard his secret plot. He intends to harm you. He wants to wait until you become immortal, then seize all the treasures on your body, and incidentally, lay a poisonous hand on you." Yao Yuekong and the Xia Imperial Prince, who were nearby, were shocked and greatly astonished upon hearing this. They hadn't heard anything, yet this little girl had already seen through everything. Li Heishui, on the other hand, suggested, "Let's deal with this Zhao Fei later." Yifan smiled, but didn't respond, though he already had a plan in mind. Not long after, several young disciples of the Feng clan appeared. Their expressions looked very displeased, especially when they saw Yifan. One of them even said in a sarcastic tone, 3 million gold yuan. Even if it fell into water, it would make a sound. How dare he still show his face here? He Huang said, displeased, young man, you should have a more long-term perspective. No matter what, he has obtained the inheritance of Grandmaster Yuan Tianzhi. Repaying your 3 million gold yuan is just a piece of cake, isn't it? That person continued, he won't even have his life left, so how can he repay it? Even if he self-severs his cultivation, he won't make it through this ordeal. He should hand over the dragon-marked black gold sword and the Qilin divine medicine seed to offset the debt of 3 million gold yuan he owes my Feng clan. Immediately after, the maidservant beside Feng Huang also sneered and said, the holy body's name shakes the heavens. Who doesn't know it now? Who hasn't heard of it? I just wonder, what kind of birthday gift you've prepared for our clan's holy lord this time? You should know that our elder has always favored divine items. Shouldn't you offer the holy sword and Qilin divine medicine as a tribute? Upon hearing this, Yifan glared fiercely at her and coldly retorted, just a maidservant, yet you dare to point fingers at me? What birthday gift I give, is that something a mere servant like you can dictate? As a result, the woman trembled with rage on the spot upon hearing this. One must know that as Feng Huang's maidservant, even the direct descendants of the Feng clan were usually respectful towards her. How could she endure such humiliation? Immediately after, the woman furiously rebuked, you're insolent. Yifan had no intention of indulging her. He also spoke with great dominance, indeed, I am very insolent. Then he lightly glanced at Feng Huang, who understood immediately. She sternly rebuked the maidservant. Why aren't you retreating quickly? Immediately after, Feng Huang glanced at Yifan, then spoke to the crowd present. My apologies, everyone, you've witnessed a spectacle. It is due to my lax discipline. I hope everyone won't stoop to her level. It was clear that Feng Huang's words were meant to mock Yifan, implying that a dignified holy body of the eastern wastelands stooping to the level of her maidservant was simply being petty. Yifan naturally understood the underlying meaning, but he didn't speak. Instead, he was pondering what kind of birthday gift would be appropriate. Ancient Dao tea certainly wouldn't do. As for the divine fist and holy fruit, there was no need to mention them. If he brought them out, it would definitely let people know that he had entered the ancient desolate forbidden land. Not long after, Yifan left with Xiaonanan and the others, preparing to visit a nearby ancient city to select a birthday gift for the Feng clan's holy lord. However, just after they left the Feng clan, Feng Huang's maidservant blocked their path. This time, she had brought an old man with her. Although he was dressed as a servant, it was clear at a glance that he was a peerless expert. Yifan asked, puzzled, what is the meaning of this? Did Feng Huang send you? The woman didn't directly answer the question. Instead, she laughed mockingly. If it weren't for the 3 million gold yuan, you'd just be a piece of trash. Don't forget where this is. How dare you repeatedly disrespect me? Then don't even think about leaving today. However, pressured by the Divine King, we naturally wouldn't dare to kill you. But we can make your life worse than death. This is a good opportunity to reclaim your dragon-marked black gold sword and the Qilin divine medicine seed to settle the debt you owe. Yifan calmly said, a toad yawning. What a big mouth. This is the first time I've seen such an arrogant servant who dares to ambush and kill me like this. Do you know what this means? However, the woman didn't take Yifan's words seriously. Instead, she became extremely furious, because what she disliked most on a daily basis was being called a servant by others. Then the woman coldly said, Old Shu, quickly take him down. And while you're at it, break all the bones in his body. Upon hearing this, the old man didn't hesitate in the slightest. He decisively extended his large hand and lunged towards Yifan. Yifan naturally didn't dare to confront him head-on, because he could tell that this old servant was a powerful expert at the seventh heaven of dragon transformation. The difference in their cultivation realms was too vast. He was simply no match. But Yifan didn't just sit there waiting for death. Instead, he secretly transmitted a message, telling He Huang to silently set up a peerless formation. He, meanwhile, dodged the old man's attacks, constantly maneuvering around him. Only after He Huang had completely set up the formation did Yi Fan lead the old man into it. He then swiftly swept out of that area. By the time the old man reacted, he was already firmly trapped by the formation, unable to break free. Upon seeing this scene, Feng Huang's maidservant turned to leave. But how could Yi Fan give her a chance to escape? He directly extended his large hand, enveloping the woman and throwing her before He Huang, intending for her to be his human pet. However, He Huang didn't think much of her at all and shamelessly declared, this emperor would never want such a worthless human pet. At the very least, it has to be a holy maiden. Okay, that's all the content for this video. If you enjoyed it, please don't hesitate to like, share, and subscribe. After all, your support is my motivation to keep creating content. I'm Yi Fan. See you in the next video.